สวัสดีครับท่านแขกผู้มีเกียรติที่เคารพรักครับในช่วงก่อนรอพิธีเปิดนะครับที่จะเริ่มขึ้นในอีกประมาณไม่กี่นาทีข้างหน้านะครับขออนุญาตพูดคุยนะครับในช่วงนี้นะครับสวัสดีทักทายกันในก่อนนะครับหลังจากนั้นแล้วในช่วงพิธีเปิดก็จะเป็นเวอร์ชันภาษาอังกฤษนะครับวันนี้เป็นงานใหญ่นะครับงานวันครูโลกนะครับจัดโดยครุสภานะครับผมสดายุธีระวณิชตระกูลครับเป็นคณะทำงานนะครับขออนุญาตมาพูดคุยกำหนดการและรายละเอียดคร่าวๆนะครับให้กับท่านแขกผู้มีเกียรติที่เคารพรักครับส่วนใหญ่ก็เชื่อว่าเป็นพี่น้องนะครับร่วมวิชาชีพกันนะครับเป็นครูบาอาจารย์นะครับวันนี้วันดีนะครับวันอาทิตย์ที่ 5 ตุลาคมนะครับฝนไม่ตกนะครับลุ้นกันอยู่พักใหญ่นะครับในช่วงสัปดาห์ที่ผ่านมานะครับฝนตกเกือบทุกวันเลยแต่เมื่อวานนะครับเรามีการต้อนรับนะครับแขกปีนี้เนี่ยมากันหลายประเทศนะครับครบในส่วนของอาเซียนเลยนะครับรวมทั้งทางติมอร์เลสเต้ก็มาด้วยนะครับปีนี้นะครับเราก็จะมีผู้แทนนะครับในการนำเสนอเรียกว่า country report นะครับเป็นสถานการณ์ทางการศึกษาของแต่ละประเทศนะครับในช่วงบ่ายถือว่าเป็นกิจกรรมที่น่าสนใจมากนะครับในช่วงเช้านะครับเราจะมีพิธีเปิดโดยได้รับเกียรติอย่างสูงนะครับจากท่านรัฐมนตรีช่วยว่าการกระทรวงศึกษาธิการนะครับดร.กฤษณพงศ์กีรติกรนะครับท่านจะมาเป็นประธานในพิธีเปิดงานวันครูโลกให้กับเรานะครับหลังจากนั้นนะครับก็จะไล่เรียงไปตามกำหนดการนะครับดังรายละเอียดที่ท่านได้รับในช่วงลงทะเบียนใครที่ยังไม่ได้รับเอกสารนะครับมีโอกาสก็สามารถที่จะไปติดต่อขอรับได้ที่โต๊ะลงทะเบียนนะครับเรามีการเปิดให้ลงทะเบียนกันล่วงหน้าทราบว่านะครับ
ทุกท่านคะขออนุญาตนะคะขอเพื่อเราจะได้ภาพที่สวยงามนะคะขออนุญาตให้ทุกท่านขยับมานั่งด้านหน้าเลยนะคะ
แล้วก็ความสนใจจากเพื่อนครู
กล้องจะจับได้ประมาณช่วง8แถว
มาจากภาคใต้
ข้างในอะค่ะนับจากข้างในไป8แถวนะคะขอรบกวนท่านอาจารย์ทุกท่านนะคะขยับเข้ามาด้านหน้าแล้วก็ขยับเข้าไปด้านข้างในเลยนะคะ
ภาคเหนือมีไหมครับภาคเหนือครับยกมือครับภาคเหนือโอ้ยินดีต้อนรับนะครับแล้วก็คนกรุงเทพครับคนกรุงเทพเจ้าภาพนะครับมาเยอะมากน้อยขนาดไหนนะครับภาคตะวันออกแล้วครับ
ขอความกรุณาอาจารย์ทุกท่านเลยนะคะเดี๋ยวพิธีเปิดจะมีการถ่ายทอดสดจากทางด้านโน้นเสร็จแล้วจะมีการถ่ายทอดจากด้านนี้ส่งไปที่ส่วนกลางด้วยนะคะ
ครับสวัสดีครับขอต้อนรับทุกท่านนะครับเข้าสู่งานวันครูโลกนะครับขณะนี้นะครับท่านประธานในพิธีนะครับท่านรัฐมนตรีช่วยว่าการกระทรวงศึกษาธิการนะครับได้เดินทางมาถึงหอประชุมครุสภาชั้น 1แล้วนะครับขอเสียงปรบมือต้อนรับท่านประธานในพิธีนะครับท่านได้เดินทางมาแล้วนะครับอยู่ด้านหลังงานนี้นะครับขอต้อนรับนะครับท่านดร.กฤษณพงศ์กีรติกรรัฐมนตรีช่วยว่าการกระทรวงศึกษาธิการนะครับมาเป็นประธานในพิธีเปิดในเช้าวันนี้นะครับในช่วงพิธีเปิดนะครับก็ใคร่ขอความอนุเคราะห์นะครับจากทุกท่านนะครับปิดเครื่องมือสื่อสารหรือว่าเปลี่ยนเป็นระบบสั่นนะครับในช่วงของพิธีเปิดนะครับขอความอนุเคราะห์จากทุกท่านนะครับปิดเครื่องมือสื่อสารหรือว่าเปลี่ยนเป็นระบบสั่นนะครับขอบพระคุณมากครับตอนนี้ก็ใกล้เวลาที่จะเริ่มงานแล้วนะครับงานของเรานะครับมีทั้งวันนะครับก็คาดหวังว่าในช่วงบ่ายก็จะเวทีก็จะล้นหลามนะครับผู้ชมก็ยังคงอยู่เพราะว่าในช่วงบ่ายนะครับ Country Report น่าสนใจมากเลยนะครับสถานการณ์ทางการศึกษาของแต่ละประเทศจะขึ้นในลักษณะของการอภิปรายกลุ่มร่วมกันนะครับโดยจะมีการแปลเป็นภาษาไทยนะครับเรามีทีมแปลนะครับในส่วนของงานเราก็จะแปลกันแล้วก็จะขึ้นจอจะเป็นสรุปที่เป็นเวอร์ชันภาษาไทยให้ด้วยนะครับครับช่วงนี้ก็รอเวลาสักครู่หนึ่งนะครับจะเข้าสู่พิธีเปิดในลำดับต่อไปครับ
ห็นดาวสีทองส่องแสงคือน้ำแรงของครูทุกเขตขาวโอ้เหนื่อยมาแสนนานงานสิ้นหนักช่างสมนาเบิกดวงดาวพราวนภาแต้มดวงตาเติมฟ้างามยามเมื่อเทียนสีทองงามส่องฟ้าวอนสายลมปลิวผ่านวานถามดาวเด่นนภาเป็นห่วงคนปั้นดาวหรือเปล่านะเพียงสัญญาจะรักดีก็สุขใจ
ครับบรรยากาศณหอประชุมครุสภาชั้นหนึ่งที่พวกเราอยู่กันตรงนี้นะครับก็มีการถ่ายทอดสดนะครับสัญญาณไปตามจุดรับสัญญาณต่างๆทั่วประเทศไทยนะครับมีมหาวิทยาลัยที่ร่วมเป็นเครือข่ายกับเรานะครับการรับผิดชอบสัญญาณตรงนี้นะครับก็จะมีการจัดงานคู่ขนานครับในแต่ละภูมิภาคได้ร่วมกันจัดงานใช้วันเดียวกันเลยครับวันที่ 5 ตุลาคมนี้นะครับในการที่จัดงานวันครูโลกนะครับโดยส่วนหนึ่งก็จะมีคณะครุศาสตร์ศึกษาศาสตร์จากมหาวิทยาลัยในภูมิภาคต่างๆแต่วันนี้ในส่วนของผู้แทนนะครับที่มาจากแต่ละประเทศนะครับถือว่าเป็นนิมิตหมายที่ดีนะครับในการที่เราได้ครบถ้วนนะครับทั้งหมดทุกประเทศเลยผมขออนุญาตนะครับในส่วนของช่วงบ่ายนะครับนำเสนอไล่เรียงกำหนดการให้ฟังคร่าวๆนะครับในช่วงบ่ายที่จะเป็นการนำเสนอ Country Report ซึ่งเป็นสถานการณ์ทางการศึกษาของแต่ละประเทศนะครับเราจะมีการดำเนินการอยู่2ช่วงครับประเทศที่มาร่วมงานเราจะแบ่งเป็น2กลุ่มโดยในช่วงแรกนะครับหลังจากเข้าสู่กิจกรรมในช่วงบ่ายนะครับก็จะมีผู้แทนจากประเทศบรูไนดารุสสลามนะครับกัมพูชาอินโดนีเซียลาวมาเลเซียและก็เมียนมานะครับที่จะนำเสนอ Country Report ในช่วงแรกหลังจากนั้นนะครับในช่วงที่2ก็คือประเทศที่เหลือซึ่งอยู่ในกลุ่มอาเซียนของเรานี่เองนะครับได้แก่ประเทศฟิลิปปินส์สิงคโปร์ติมอร์เลสเตเวียดนามและก็ไทยเป็นอันครบถ้วนนะครับในส่วนตรงนี้ก็จะมีการสรุปรายละเอียดต่างๆนะครับเป็นภาษาไทยในขณะที่มีการนำเสนอด้วยแล้วก็จะรวบรวมเอกสารต่างๆเผยแพร่นะครับไปทางเว็บไซต์ของครุสภาและก็เว็บไซต์ของโคโฮสก็ได้แก่คณะศึกษาศาสตร์ครุศาสตร์นะครับที่เป็นเจ้าภาพร่วมกันในการจัดงานนะครับงานในปีนี้นะครับถือว่าได้รับการตอบรับเป็นอย่างดียิ่งนะครับโดยเฉพาะปีนี้นะครับจากผู้แทนครบถ้วนทั้งหมดเลยนะครับครบถ้วนทั้งหมดมาอยู่หน้าที่นี้แล้วนะครับเราก็จะมีการสังเคราะห์ทำเป็นงานวิจัยนะครับสังเคราะห์ Country Report ซึ่งเป็นสถานการณ์การศึกษาของประเทศในกลุ่มอาเซียนนะครับหัวข้อในการที่เราจะอภิปรายกันในวันนี้ครับ Teaching Professional in ASEAN นะครับถือว่าน่าสนใจมากโดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งในนโยบายของการเตรียมรับเข้าสู่การรวมกลุ่มประชาคมอาเซียนซึ่งจะมีการ kick off อย่างเป็นทางการในวันที่ 31 ธันวาคมปีหน้าเหลือเวลาอีกไม่นานนักนะครับเราก็จะถือว่าเข้าสู่ประชาคมอาเซียนอย่างเป็นทางการวันนี้เรามีผู้แทนจากประชาคมอาเซียนมาครบถ้วนกระบวนความทั้งหมดเลยนะครับตอนนี้ก็รอช่วงเวลาเปิดสักเล็กน้อยนะครับน่าจะได้เวลาประมาณสัก 9 นาฬิกาเวลาดีพอดีนะครับ
สอนเจือจุนให้รักแท้อบอุ่นหวังสิทธิ์ก้าวเดินจำเริญก้าวไกลพระคุณครูจดจำไว้มันชั่วชีวันไม่ลืมเลือนจดจำไว้พระคุณครูสถิตกลางใจทูลไว้พร้อมทดแทนพระคุณครู
Good morning. Greeting in Southeast Asian languages. Start by Cambodia, Khmer, Mingalaba, Chumriep Sua Sok Sabaidi. In Laos, Sambaidi. In Myanmar, Mingalaba, for our colleague from Myanmar. From Vietnam, Xin Chào. For the Philippines, Magandang Umaga. Salamat pagi for the countries that are speaking Bahasa Melayu and Bahasa Indonesia. Bom dia for the Timor-Leste colleagues. And for the Singapore, of course, good morning as an official language, and Sawadee ka. So welcome you all to the Teacher Council of Thailand, which is the venue of the World Teachers' Day 2014 today. Before we begin the opening ceremony, I would like to provide you with information about the programs. We will first start with the opening ceremony with the welcome remark from Professor Dr. Paithun Sinlarat, the President of the Teacher Council of Thailand. Then we will follow by the remark of Dr. Gwangjo Kim, the Director of UNESCO, followed by remark from Dr. Withaya Jira Deshakun, the Director of CMIO. And then we will follow by the opening address of His Excellency Dr. Gritsanapong Giratikon, the Vice Minister of Education, Ministry of Education, Thailand. Later on, we will later start the keynote sessions. The keynote session will start by Dr. Gwangjo Kim, a special keynote address on teaching and learning, achieving quality for all. Then after Dr. Gwangjo Kim keynote address, we will follow by the plenary lecture. There will be 2 speakers for the plenary lectures. First, we'll start with Dr. Ethel Agnes Pascual Valenzuela from the Philippines, CMIO Innotech from the Philippines. Then carry on with another lecture from Professor Dr. Paithun Sinlarat, the President of the Teacher Council of Thailand, and then we will have lunch. In the afternoon, it will be another interesting sessions in the afternoon because we will hear varieties of experience from countries. It's a very great privilege that we have all the member countries of Southeast Asia, 11 countries here, to share with you the experience of teacher education in ASEAN, including Timor-Leste in Southeast Asia. So very privileged and very useful information for you all to be here. So all the countries that we invite, there are the expert from Teacher Education Institute that can give you insightful information, including Thailand as well, that you will receive the information from them. Okay? So before we start, this is the program that I would like to inform you, and then later on we will proceed further for the official ceremony. Thank you very much. So welcome you again to the International Conference on Teaching Profession in ASEAN. My name is Tin Siri, and I'm from CMIO. I will be your MC this morning. For this year's event, the International Conference or the World Teachers' Day, it is graciously hosted by the Teacher Council of Thailand together with the Office of Permanent Secretary, the Ministry of Education, Thailand. Together with these 2 main organizers, there are universities, key universities in Thailand who are the partners and other international organizations. The international organization that are partner with these two key organizers is UNESCO and CMIO. The university that are also partner with this event is first Burapha University. The second one is Chiang Mai University, which is located in the north of Thailand. The next one is Thaksin University in the south. In the east, we have Khon Kaen University. In the west, we have Rachapat Ratchanakarin University. And also, we have Rachapat Nakhon Sawan, which is in the middle of province of Thailand. So, in addition to that, we also have Rachapat Suandusit, who are the partners in organizing this event. And the reason I mentioned to you who are the organizers, because this year is very special and very unique. This is the first time in the history of the World Teachers' Day celebration in Thailand that we will broadcast live the event throughout Thailand through these 5 universities as we speaking. As I mentioned to you, we will broadcast live to the north, Chiang Mai, Rachapat Chiang Mai University, to the south, Thaksin University, to the east, Khon Kaen University, to the west, Rachapat Ratchanakarin, and also to Rachapat Nakhon Sawan in the central. So imagine not only here, you see teachers all over Thailand will also hear or listen to you and share the experience. They will also have the interactive live exchange of information throughout the day. So we are part of the history in the making of how we celebrate the Teachers' Day in Thailand. So the World Teachers' Day, it is as we know, that it is a very special day that we recognize, we celebrate, and we honor the contribution that the teacher has provided for us. It is not only to celebrate or to recognize them, but we also use it as forums to exchange of ideas, lessons learned, experience, and information, or share the new knowledge to stimulate the quality of education for teachers, for us, and how they can pass it on to the new generation. So this is why the World Teachers' Day is very important. It has been celebrated all over the world since 1994, the World Teachers' Day. And the theme of the World Teachers' Day this year is invest in the future, invest in the teacher. So that is a very prominent theme or the key word for the World Teachers' Day. Thailand, we celebrate Teachers' Day since 1947. It is 1957. The Teacher Council celebrated on the occasion, and Thailand Teachers' Day is on the 16th of January of every year. So may I start the opening ceremony by welcoming Professor Dr. Paitun Sinlarat, the President of the Teacher Council of Thailand, to deliver his opening remark. Professor, please.
Dr. Kisanaphong Kiratikon, Deputy Minister of Education of Thailand, Dr. Kwang Jo Kim, Director of UNESCO Bangkok, Dr. Withaya Jira Deshakun, Director of CMIO Secretariat, Dr. Etienne Agnes Pascua, Venezuela, Senior Specialist CMIO in Innotech, the Philippines. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Teacher Council of Thailand, I would like to welcome you all to the International Conference on the Teaching Profession in ASEAN on the occasion of 2014 World Teacher Days. In this opportunity, I also would like to thank the UNESCO Bangkok, the CMIO Secretariat of collaboration in organizing this conference. As a professional university teacher myself, it gives me a great pleasure to be a part of the conference that will give you an opportunity to exchange knowledge and idea on development of the teaching profession, not only among Thai, but also among 10 members of ASEAN country and Timor-Leste. I believe that the theme of this conference is very timely and relevant to the need of our country and our region to improve the quality of education for all. A primary task of teacher is to bring out the best in students. Teacher here to be able to effectively manage the learning environment for students to encourage them to think critically and creatively. We cannot deny the importance of teacher role in helping students to prepare for success in life. This in turn will benefit economic and social development of our country and bring about a sustainable development. I trust that you will be able to gain international perspective on the improving teaching and learning to achieve quality of education from the UNESCO and CMO. Equally important, you will also get a glimpse of Thailand's education reform policy for improving teacher quality, instructional practice, and teacher status. Ladies and gentlemen, to recognize exemplary performance of teachers in Thailand, a ceremony to award them with certificate of appreciation and medal has been held annually by the Teacher Council of Thailand, along with scholarship and professional development program provided by several agencies in Thailand. The teacher recruitment and accreditation system in Thailand has been reformed to raise the image and status of teacher. We are very much eager to share with you our idea and experiences on how to attract those with appropriate knowledge and qualification to the teaching profession, how to increase teacher morale and motivation, and how to retain the best teacher in the system. Again, I wish you to welcome you all here today. I do hope that you will be a present stay in Thailand, and I wish this conference a success. Thank you. ขอบคุณครับ
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Paitun Sinlarat, the President of the Teacher Council of Thailand. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Gwangjo Kim, the Director of the UNESCO Regional Bureau for Education in Bangkok, to deliver his remark.
Your Excellency Dr. Krisanapong Kiltikara, Deputy Minister of Education of the Kingdom of Thailand, Professor Paitun Sinlarat, President of the Teachers Council of Thailand, Dr. Vitaya Jeradechakol, Director of CMO Secretariat, distinguished participants, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Saudi Krab, and good morning. Teachers transform lives. They inform, they inspire, and they plant the seeds of sustainable, peaceful future to which we all aspire. The potential of teachers to bring about positive changes cannot be underestimated. Indeed, as American historian Henry Adams once noted, quote, "A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops," unquote. It is my pleasure to join you here on the 20th anniversary of the World Teachers' Day, on an occasion on which we celebrate the tremendous contributions made by the educators in our societies. It is also time for us to reflect on the obstacles that keep them from realizing their potential. I would like to thank the Thai Minister of Education, the Secretariat Office of the Teachers Council of Thailand, the Thai Education Dean Council, and related universities in Thailand for jointly organizing this important event. On behalf of UNESCO Asia Pacific Regional Bureau for Education, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to teachers throughout ASEAN and in Thailand in particular for their unwavering commitment to education and service to their nations and to children. Thailand has a long and proud tradition of devoted teachers who have shared their wisdom with the learners, and that tradition continues to this day. Teachers have long occupied the drive to become the innovative and responsible global citizens we need to build the inclusive knowledge societies we want for the 21st century. Quality education hinges on a professional, committed, and competent teaching force. To make this a reality, countries must recruit and retain capable teachers as well as provide them with the tools and training they need to be effective in the classroom. Progress in this regard has been far from satisfactory. Simply put, there is a severe shortage of professional, well-trained, and properly supported teachers, and this is having a direct impact in our ability to deliver quality education to our youth. According to UNESCO statistics, 464,000 new teachers need to be recruited in East Asia and the Pacific to achieve the goal of universal primary education by 2015, which is next year, 19,000 new recruits and 445,000 to replace those leaving the profession. Of course, merely filling these posts is not an adequate response to this challenge. Teachers' quality is just as crucial. Far too often, teachers remain underqualified, poorly paid, and accorded little status in society. Professionally trained teachers are the most important factor in a quality education. We must equip them to succeed, and that requires improved initial training and continuous professional development and support. We are glad to see that member states in this region, including Thailand, are making strides in developing robust teacher education systems that respond to these two fundamental needs. Teachers deserve to be accorded the respect they deserve for the contributions they make to our societies, and their career path and financial status also need to reflect this. Unfortunately, in many countries, this is not the case. And until we rectify this situation, we will be unable to recruit our nation's best and brightest into the teaching profession. These issues are addressed in the 1966 ILO UNESCO recommendation concerning the status of teachers and the 1997 UNESCO recommendation concerning the status of higher education teaching personnel. These two documents remain relevant in the modern context and should serve as a foundation for any teacher-related policy initiatives. I would like to highlight some of our UNESCO's priorities in teacher education for the next 4 years. First, teacher competency standards to inform teacher education curriculum reforms, teacher appraisals, and their professional pathway. Second, professional development and innovative pedagogies with a school-based action research project as a means of introducing innovative pedagogies into classrooms. Third, school leadership, which aims at promoting school-level innovations in step management, curriculum adaptation, ICT pedagogy integration, etc. Fourth, status and working conditions of teachers as part of a global monitoring exercise on the applications of the 1966 and 1997 UNESCO Conventions on Teachers. Teacher-related issues have received significant attention in the ongoing deliberations on the post-2015 education agenda. One of the targets identified in the Muscat Agreement is for governments to ensure that all learners are taught by qualified, professionally trained, motivated, and well-supported teachers. The recently issued Bangkok Statement also recognized that quality learning is a priority for the region and that teachers are at the heart of this. Before I conclude, I would like to underscore how the teaching profession, more so than other professions, requires great devotion as well as high ethical and moral standards. Without these, the task of educating youth who reflect these same values is impossible. I'm happy to see that these values are deeply rooted in Thai society and beyond in ASEAN. I will leave you with the words of His Majesty, the King of Thailand, who said, quote, "Education and those directly responsible for it, namely teachers, are of great importance. The people's education is the indicator of the advancement or the decline of a country. The work of teachers, therefore, means the life or death of a country," unquote. Let us celebrate their work on this special occasion throughout this conference and indeed every day. I wish this conference every success and thank you very much. Khon Kaen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim, for the remarkable speech for the opening. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Withaya Jiradeshakul, the Director of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization, or CMIO, to deliver his remark. Dr. Withaya, เชิญค่ะ
Okay. Guangzhou is taller than me, so I have to move this down a little bit. So, yeah. Your Excellencies, Dr. Krishnapong Kiriyakitakon, respected Dr. Paitun Silalat, President of the Teachers Council of Thailand, respected Guangzhou Kim, Director of UNESCO East Asia Pacific, distinguished members of the international organization, members of CMIO member countries, distinguished presidents, professors, fellow teachers sitting here, may I extend to you the warmest greetings from the Southeast Asia Ministers of Education Organization, in short, CMIO. I may take longer time, a bit more time, because this is only once a year of occasion to speak. So please bear with me. We are all teachers. I am a teacher. And I like to refer to a quote from one of, we know in one part of him is that he's a great scientist, but the other part, he is also the great teacher, a great professor, Albert Einstein. He said, "It is the supreme art of the teachers to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge." Albert Einstein himself is an educator, a professor in German universities. Given his genius and passion for knowledge, where he says about teachers and teaching, it is something we can learn and can get insights from. In this simple quote alone, Einstein conveyed a number of points, meaningful points that we may be able to learn from him. The first one, he referred to teachings as an art. Second one, he also referred to teaching as something is a joy in learning. And also teachings also for creativity in expression. And also, last one, teaching is also a continuing quest for knowledge, never stop. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today's celebration of World Teachers' Day, the spotlight is on teachers and their key roles in moving the world, figuratively, towards advancement. The students who are the end products of the teaching profession have a magnitude of roles, expectations, and challenges to face the world of work. I would like to move from global perspective to regional perspective, that is on Southeast Asia itself, particularly focusing on the very short near future ahead of us next year is 2015, that is on ASEAN Economic Community. Undoubtedly, this new development, even though it's not new because we have prepared for this for quite a number of years in many countries in Southeast Asia. But the AEC itself will create a more efficient and integrated and competitive economic environment within ASEAN. The sweeping changes that will be brought by the AEC in 2015 will impact the existing economic environment in significant ways. I say significant ways. And will also impact the way companies, governments, institutions, and organizations conduct their operations. As such, the AEC also has important ramifications for the way ASEAN is teaching its students. Students whose entire careers will take place under this new and more complex ASEAN economic environment. When we talk about students, we also have to talk about the teachers. And now, more than ever, students need to be taught on the higher order skills that the world should prepare them, even way past 2015. Students have to be educated and trained to acquire the 21st century skills such as creativity, innovation, critical and problem-solving skills, communication and collaboration skills. A proper combination of what I call hard skills and soft skills, I believe. This will make our students employable, creative, and also thrive in the career that they will choose. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, improving the quality of teaching is a primary agenda for Southeast Asia. In the recent concluded CMEO College module number 1, which is called Strategic Dialogue for Education Ministers, which was held on 13th of September 2014, right after the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting in Laos, PDR. The education ministers of 11 member countries of Southeast Asia have identified several areas in education where there are needs to push for innovation and paradigm shift. I will talk about this one by one. However, the areas that have been focused, mentioned quite intensively by the ministers include technical vocational education and training, include higher education, include basic education, focusing on out-of-school children, also focusing on early childhood care and education, ECCE. Why we focus on this? In the education ministers talk openly on how to make the teaching profession a profession of the first choice rather than the last choice. It used to be that the teaching is a prime and prestigious profession long ago. I don't know, but now it's coming back. And then what happened these days, teaching has become another one of the careers, of the choices that the student will choose when they have no other choices. So this is one thing that has been focused. And then, toward this end, the Southeast Asia countries were in consensus in the systems that had to be put in place nationally and regionally. One recommendation is that for the establishment of the national, one recommendation is that this establishment of a clear, expected Southeast Asian-wide competency framework for teachers, a systematic, comprehensive, flexible, and experience-based model. Next to this is that teacher development and management reforms to retirement, based on clear teaching competencies, frameworks from preschool teachers to head schools and teachers educators. CMEO has in fact substantial efforts toward this goal. The CMEO-wide head teacher competency framework has been developed by CMEO Innotech and the other partners. CMEO Innotech is in the Philippines, one among the 21 CMEO centers that have been located in different member countries of Southeast Asia. CMEO TropMed in Thailand, in Philippines, in Malaysia, CMEO Innotech in Thailand, CMEO SPAFA, and also 6 CMEO QTEPs in Indonesia, CMEO Rexam. So I think I invite you to browse to the CMEO website then to get a deeper understanding of what we are doing for Southeast Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, on the regional scale, I think CMEO is also working with UNESCO, working with UNICEF, and another organization called ARNEC to develop what we call the competency framework for pre-primary teachers in terms of professional development. And most recently, just I think last week, we just concluded the discussion with UNICEF in terms of the Southeast Asia primary learning metrics kind of project that we focus on in 11 member countries of Southeast Asia. And also, I think we will have a launch of this event in the CMEO Congress in the forthcoming, in the next few weeks. I hope that everybody sitting here could also join that CMEO Congress. I extend to you our open invitation again. So please, sorry, I make some advertisement for my CMEO Congress. So I hope you don't mind. And also another one in the, we also in CMEO, we have what we call the high officials meeting on basic education. It means that those who are in charge of basic education will have a yearly meeting, and the most recent one concluded in Brunei, Jerusalem, also mentioned about the needs for us to have what we call the regional framework of basic education, focusing on some kind of competency network, not so rigid, something that we could work together to accredit in order to mobilize to support the mobility of the teachers of school, high school, secondary school students to mobilize among the Southeast Asia. And that will be also held in November, in the 1st of November in this year. That is CMIL Rexam is going to head that project. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue of another one that is so important that CMIL member countries also highlighted, there is the need to put what we call the QA, quality assurance mechanisms in place, and to have this quality assurance as an integral part of the teaching process, such as competency standards, rigorous certification procedures, induction, probation for new teachers, performance appraisal, career progressions, and recertification process, and others. So many things to do. Ladies and gentlemen, the issues of improving recruitment and professional development of the teachers are only but two of the many issues that beseech the teaching profession. A significant concern that directly impacts the students is teachers' competencies and teaching strategies. At a practical level, teachers should be able to, among others, to teach the students to include the following characteristics. Number one, to teach them to have the value of to see value of questioning common, widely shared assumption. The need to encourage students to question what one assumes he knows might be something that he really doesn't know. And this could trigger discussions leading to reshaping of his thinking and eventually towards forming new ideas. Second one is to teach the student to generate new ideas. Oftentimes, unconventional ideas are viewed as something strange, something foolish, and are outrightly ignored, if not rejected. Innovativeness then is stifled. Environment must be relatively free of harsh criticisms. Instead, it should be full of encouragement to let students develop their ideas into projects. And the last one I have here is that to promote the value for teachers as a modeling. The teacher serving as model for creative behavior, innovating in teaching is liberating for the teacher himself, making teaching fun, engaging for the students. These are key qualities that will create a culture of creativeness and inspire to acquire a joy of learning, as Albert Einstein put it, awakened the joy in creative expression and knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the paradigm shift, the education ministers indicated the need for paradigm shift that I must say that I am in total agreement. You could also say that reshaping, the rethinking, new way of thinking, new way of reshaping education. As some of the proposed changes are not totally new, and to some instances, we don't need to be reinventing, but we don't need to be reinventing the wheel, but the issues of transformation to thrive in an increasingly complex digital world is important. In this transformation, teachers play a critical role in ensuring the students, the future working citizens of the world, will leave the schools and are able to thrive, are able to reinvent themselves and continuously seek knowledge. The supreme art of drawing out from each and every student that for them to inculcate lifetime desire to learn. And as a former professor myself, I believe strongly that inculcating the desire to learn is the best indicator of a teacher's success. I would like to refer as a concluding reference to my speech here is a quote by Galileo. He said that you cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him find within himself. You cannot teach a man anything, but you can only help him find in within himself. This is so meaningful. So that, ladies and gentlemen, my warmest greetings to all teachers in this event. Happy Teachers' Days. May you all continue to be inspired by the great world you are creating, because our world is comprised of people who at one stage in their lives had been taught by and learned from a teacher. Good mornings. ขอบคุณครับ สวัสดีครับ
Thank you very much, Dr. Witaya, for the remark on behalf of CMEO. Ladies and gentlemen, for today, it is a very, very good honor and privilege for us to have the Deputy Minister of Education, Thailand, to preside over the opening ceremony today. So it is my honor and privilege to invite Dr. Gritsanapong Giratikon, the Deputy Minister of Education, Minister of Education, Thailand. ขอเรียนเชิญค่ะ
Excellency, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Cambodia, President Emeritus Dr. Paitun Sinlarat, President of the Teachers Council of Thailand, Dr. Kwang Jo Kim, Director of UNESCO Bangkok, Dr. Witaya Jiradeshakun, Director of the CMO Secretariat, Dr. Ethel Agnes Pasco Valenzuela, Senior Specialist, CMO Inotech, the Philippines, distinguished participants from Southeast Asian countries, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honor and a pleasure for me to be here today on behalf of the Minister to inaugurate Thailand's celebration of the World Teachers' Day 2014. I come here as both so-called a politician and a professional teacher. I'm a teacher myself. I've been teaching engineering and technology for over 4 decades. And I was still teaching and supervising thesis before I became a minister. I hope that when I retire from this position, I'll go back and become a teacher again. I greatly admired the efforts by the Teachers Council of Thailand, or KRUSAPA, in collaboration with UNESCO Bangkok, the CMO Secretariat, and our education partners to organize this conference. This is an excellent opportunity for delegates from Southeast Asian nations and Thailand and Timor-Leste to examine and exchange on how we can develop the full potential of teachers and enable our teachers to improve the teaching so that our teachers can pave better path for our children and our nation. I had a short opportunity to scan the documents that are made available at this conference. I greatly appreciate member countries that make available to us this very valuable information. I hope that we could have this opportunity to share information experience in the future again. Organizing such conference, in particular this one on teacher profession in ASEAN, on the occasion of 2014 World Teachers' Day, is not only timely, but also relevant to the major challenges in the world of the 21st century, as mentioned by Director Kim and Director Witaya. I think efforts to improve quality of education for all has become increasingly important all over the world. As the theme of this conference is about, if we want to invest in our future. We have to invest in our students through investing in our teachers. Efforts must be driven so that we could have effective teachers who can plant seeds of wisdom and aspiration in students so that they can grow up to lead prosperous and fulfilling lifestyle. Personally, I've been saying many times that the reason why I'm here is because of I have good teachers in the past. I couldn't have been here without what my teachers have done to me. This conference will hopefully stimulate ideas on how to improve teaching competency and standards and develop the teaching profession. The conference theme is consistent with the essence of the recent Education for All Global Monitoring Report, which suggests strategies to improve the teaching and learning process in order to achieve quality education for all. Ladies and gentlemen, the conference theme captures Thailand's education reform policies for improving teachers' quality, instructional practice, and teacher status. The reform of teachers and education personnel is be given high priority in Thailand. Those who have followed the events in Thailand would see that we are going through this great expectation of a reform or a reform assembly will be set up to cover 11 areas, and education is one of them. In this reform area, we will be selecting something like 50 eminent persons in each reform area, including education. And there are over 700 applicants to be selected in this education reform area. The names that have been selected is being transmitted for endorsement. So for the next couple of years, we would see this National Reform Assembly or in LA, and hopefully after this in LA, we could have this National Education Reform Platform. We recognize that reform is not an easy issue. It would take years and years. From experience of countries in Asia, it would take about a decade to come up with and also instill reform mechanism. The current Minister of Education of Thailand has announced as an urgent policy on teacher recruitment and accreditation system to ease off the problem of teacher shortage in vocational education and basic education. The challenge of Thailand is that in the next 1 decade, about 40% of our teachers will retire. So this represents a great window of opportunity that we could really shape up our education system, and we have ideas from various sectors how we would use this golden window to our best, to the best of the country. We have seen in the last couple of years that at least the quality of the inputs who choose to be teachers have been increasing. I think last week I've seen information that the applicants into the teachers program in Thailand, they are in the top 10% of students in the social science and humanities. So this represents, I think, a very welcome signal that at least Thai students see that teachers is a profession of high potential. So now we could attract very good students into the teacher stream. Teacher potential is also being developed through various ongoing professional development programs. We are experimenting with coaching, we are looking at examples of our friends in Southeast Asia, how they developed respective professional development program. I think we now realize that teaching is not just downloading knowledge. I think we know what downloading knowledge is like. We download. Teaching is not joining a cable between a mouth of a teacher and a head of student, and you download something from your mouth into their head. Teaching is much more than that. Teaching is about developing potential. Teaching is instilling values into students, so on and so forth. I think in Thailand we are looking at teachers who can also serve as role models for their students, who can really influence and motivate their students. It is timely that I would say that Thailand has established a very prestigious award, a lifetime award for teachers, not for Thailand, but for countries in this region. The award is called Princess Mahachakri Award. It would commemorate the 60th birthday of Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri Sirinthorn, who has spent most of her life in working towards education for children, especially the marginalized children and marginalized people. This award would be for 10 ASEAN countries and Timor-Leste, and it's a biennial award. And we have communicated the nature of this award to senior officials of ASEAN and Timor-Leste and through embassies. The criteria for selecting teachers for this lifetime award is quite simple. We look for teachers who instill positive change in students and also inspire teachers. So it's quite the true criteria, very broad criteria. And we request ASEAN member countries and Timor-Leste just to develop their own selection criteria. The first award ceremony would be at the next World Teachers Day in Bangkok in October 2015. So I do hope that Thailand could welcome many of you back, not at the 2015 World Teachers Day, but also the award ceremony of the first Princess Mahachakri Award. So this award is a biennial award. So hopefully through this award mechanism, teachers in the 10 ASEAN countries and Timor-Leste could, I think, get in touch with one another more often. At the award ceremony, not only would see this award presentation, but would organize the workshops like this for the 11 teachers to meet at least their Thai teachers throughout Thailand, not just Bangkok. I think in conclusion, I very much appreciate the contributions from the Director of University of Bangkok, the specialists from CMO Innotech, and experts from our region. We all recognize that our children are our future, so it is therefore appropriate to do our utmost to see that our students received the best education possible. In this regard, professional teachers are the key. So let us therefore now explore how we could assist our teachers so that they could maximize their professional potential to ensure a sustainable future. Let us share our experience together on occasions like this. I wish you every success in your deliberations, and now it gives me great pleasure to declare this conference open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, for the insightful, informative, and inspiring speech for us. His Excellency Dr. Gritsanapong is our newly appointed.
เรียนท่านแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านนะคะ ลำดับถัดไปจะเป็นพิธีเปิดงานวันครูโลกในส่วนภูมิภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือและการประชุมสัมมนาสำหรับบุคลากรในโครงการนะคะขอกราบเรียนเชิญท่านประธานในพิธีผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.เด่นพงษ์สุดภักดีค่ะท่านรองอธิการบดีฝ่ายวิชาการและเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศมหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นรับฟังคำกล่าวรายงานและกล่าวเปิดด้านบนเวทีค่ะและเชิญผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.เมตรีดินประสิทธิ์คณบดีคณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นกล่าวรายงานต่อท่านประธานในพิธีทางโพเดียมด้านซ้ายมือค่ะขอกราบเรียนเชิญค่ะ
เรียนท่านประธานในพิธีท่านรองอธิการบดีฝ่ายวิชาการและเทคโนโลยีสารสนเทศมหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.เด่นพงษ์สุดภักดีท่านคณบดีคณะมนุษยศาสตร์และสังคมศาสตร์ท่านรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.กุลธิดาท้วมสุขผู้บริหารคณาจารย์คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นผู้บริหารคณาจารย์คณะครุศาสตร์ศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยเครือข่ายศึกษานิเทศคุณครูและแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านในนามคณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นผมขอขอบคุณท่านประธานที่กรุณาสละเวลามาเปิดงานวันครูโลกส่วนภูมิภาคของภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือในวันนี้องค์การยูเนสโกได้กำหนดให้วันที่5ตุลาคมของทุกปีเป็นวันครูโลกเพื่อประกาศยกย่องครูให้เป็นบุคคลสำคัญเนื่องจากมีบทบาทสำคัญอย่างยิ่งในการพัฒนาคุณภาพการศึกษาในปีนี้สำนักงานเลขาธิการครุสภาได้ขอความร่วมมือให้คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นร่วมกับคณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยทักษิณคณะครุศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยราชภัฏนครสวรรค์คณะครุศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยราชภัฏเชียงใหม่คณะครุศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยราชภัฏราชนครินทร์จัดงานวันครูโลกในส่วนของภูมิภาคโดยคณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นจัดในส่วนภูมิภาคของภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือสำหรับกิจกรรมในวันนี้ได้รวมเข้าเป็นส่วนหนึ่งของการทำโครงการปฏิบัติการของโครงการการคิดขั้นสูงทางคณิตศาสตร์ซึ่งเริ่มงานมาตั้งแต่วันที่4รวมวันนี้และวันพรุ่งนี้อีก1วันโดยมีการเชิญวิทยากรโปรเฟสเซอร์มิโซกุจิทัศยะมาบรรยายเกี่ยวกับเรื่องวิดีโอ Classroom Analysis จำนวนผู้เข้าร่วมงานทั้งสิ้น733คนประกอบด้วยครูศึกษานิเทศผู้บริหารและคณาจารย์มหาวิทยาลัยเครือข่ายและนักศึกษาทั้งระดับปริญญาตรีและบัณฑิตศึกษาโดยมีกิจกรรมดังต่อไปนี้การบรรยายพิเศษของวิทยากรซึ่งมีการรับสัญญาณถ่ายทอดจากหอประชุมครุสภามายังมหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นนิทรรศการยกย่องเชิดชูเกียรติบุคคลสำคัญได้แก่ศาสตราจารย์หม่อมหลวงปิ่นมาลากุลศาสตราจารย์สาโรจน์บัวศรีศาสตราจารย์ท่านผู้หญิงภูลทรัพย์นพวงศ์ณอยุธยาจอห์นดิวอี้คงจื้อศาสตราจารย์ดร.อารีสันหชวีตลอดจนนิทรรศการแสดงผลงานของครูและโรงเรียนที่เข้าร่วมโครงการของมหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นรวมถึงการเปิดชั้นเรียนวิชาคณิตศาสตร์ชั้นประถมปีที่1ซึ่งจะมีการถ่ายทอดสัญญาณไปยังหอประชุมครุสภาบัดนี้ได้เวลาสมควรแล้วผมขอเรียนเชิญท่านประธานในพิธีกล่าวเปิดงานวันครูโลกส่วนภูมิภาคของภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือขอเรียนเชิญครับ
เรียนท่านคณบดีคณะศึกษาศาสตร์ผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.ไมตรีอินประสิทธิ์นะครับท่านคณบดีคณะมนุษยศาสตร์และสังคมศาสตร์รองศาสตราจารย์ดร.กุลธิดาท้วมสุขนะครับท่านรองคณบดีท่านผู้อำนวยการท่านผู้บริหาร คณาจารย์คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นผู้บริหารและคณาจารย์มหาวิทยาลัยเครือข่าย ศึกษานิเทศคุณครูและแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านครับวันนี้ผมรู้สึกยินดีนะครับแล้วก็เป็นอย่างยิ่งนะครับที่ได้มาเป็นประธานในพิธีเปิดงานวันครูโลกส่วนภูมิภาคนะครับก็เป็นโอกาสที่ผมเองในฐานะที่เป็นครูคนหนึ่งเช่นกันก็เพิ่งทราบเหมือนกันนะครับว่าวันนี้เป็นวันครูโลกอันนี้ต้องสารภาพเลยนะครับว่าไม่เคยทราบมาก่อนว่าวันนี้คือวันครูโลกปกติเราจะรู้จักแต่วันครูไทยกันนะครับก็รู้สึกยินดีแล้วก็เป็นเกียรติเป็นอย่างสูงนะครับที่มาเปิดงานในวันนี้นะครับแล้วก็เป็นโอกาสที่ดีที่มหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นได้รับความไว้วางใจจากครุสภาให้เป็นตัวแทนมหาวิทยาลัยในภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือนะครับให้จัดงานในส่วนภูมิภาคในวันนี้ซึ่งอาจจะถือได้ว่าเป็นงานในส่วนภูมิภาคหรือในกลุ่มงานของประเทศไทยที่อาจจะมีผู้เข้าร่วมเยอะที่สุดก็ว่าได้เพราะถ้าดูจากวิดีโอเมื่อสักครู่ผมคาดว่าห้องนี้น่าจะมีคนเยอะกว่านะครับในจำนวนที่ทุกท่านนั่งอยู่ในวันนี้นะครับก็เป็นที่ทราบดีนะครับทุกท่านคือบุคคลสำคัญไม่ใช่บุคคลสำคัญเป็นเพียงของชาติไทยเท่านั้นท่านเป็นบุคคลสำคัญของโลกท่านเป็นบุคคลที่มีหน้าที่และบทบาทหลักนะครับในการที่จะขับเคลื่อนการศึกษาโดยเฉพาะในสภาวะที่ประเทศไทยจำเป็นที่จะต้องมีการปฏิรูปการศึกษาแล้วเรายังอยู่ในช่วงที่มีการปฏิรูปการศึกษาท่านคือกลไกหนึ่งที่อาจจะต้องมีอยู่ในกลุ่มของการปฏิรูปการศึกษาทั้งเป็นผู้ที่อาจจะถูกปฏิรูปและผู้ที่ให้ข้อมูลในการที่จะปฏิรูปการศึกษาการปฏิรูปการศึกษาตรงนั้นมีหลายองค์ประกอบนะครับซึ่งท่านต้องเป็นองค์ประกอบหนึ่งอยู่แล้วนะครับการจัดการในวันนี้นะครับก็เห็นชัดเจนว่ายิ่งทำให้เราต้องตระหนักให้มากขึ้นว่าครูในฐานะที่เป็นบทบาทของภาคการศึกษาของประเทศและเป็นส่วนหนึ่งที่เป็นผู้รับผิดชอบในการพัฒนากำลังคนของโลกจะต้องมีการปลูกฝังจิตสำนึกทั้งหลายที่ดีการสร้างลักษณะนิสัยที่ดีของลูกศิษย์หรือประชากรของโลกที่กำลังจะเติบโตขึ้นมาเพื่อที่จะเป็นกำลังของโลกในโอกาสต่อไปนะครับซึ่งยูเนสโกให้ความสำคัญกับเรื่องนี้มาตั้งแต่ต้นแล้วก็ได้วางองค์ประกอบหลายอย่างในเรื่องของภาคการศึกษาซึ่งท่านจะทราบดีนะครับในวันนี้จริงๆแล้วยังหัวข้อของวันครูนะครับที่จัดเอาไว้จะเป็นหัวข้อที่ดีมากนะครับบอกว่า invest in the future ก็คือให้ invest in teacher ก็หมายความว่าท่านจะการที่ลงทุนกับครูก็เหมือนกับลงทุนสำหรับอนาคตจริงๆครับท่านอยู่กับอนาคตของโลกนะครับในนามของมหาวิทยาลัยขอนแก่นนะครับขอขอบคุณแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านนะครับทั้งที่เป็นคณาจารย์จากคณะศึกษาศาสตร์คณะครุศาสตร์ของมหาวิทยาลัยเครือข่ายศึกษานิเทศจากสำนักงานเขตพื้นที่การศึกษาและคุณครูจากโรงเรียนในโครงการและจากโรงเรียนต่างๆนะครับที่สนใจเข้ามาเรียนรู้และร่วมงานในวันนี้นะครับโดยมีวัตถุประสงค์ร่วมกันนะครับที่จะมุ่งพัฒนาคุณภาพการศึกษาของภูมิภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือและประเทศไทยให้เข้มแข็งและเพื่อลดความเหลื่อมล้ำทางสังคมที่มีอยู่ในปัจจุบันนะครับสุดท้ายนี้ผมขอให้การจัดงานวันครูโลกส่วนภูมิภาคนะครับของภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือบรรลุวัตถุประสงค์ทุกประการนะครับบัดนี้ได้เวลาอันสมควรแล้วผมขอเปิดงานวันครูโลกส่วนภูมิภาคภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือณบัดนี้ครับขอบพระคุณครับ
ขอบพระคุณท่านประธานเป็นอย่างสูงค่ะลำดับถัดไปขอเรียนเชิญท่านคณบดีคณะศึกษาศาสตร์มอบของที่ระลึกเพื่อเป็นการขอบพระคุณแด่ท่านประธานในพิธีค่ะขอบพระคุณท่านเป็นอย่างสูงค่ะลำดับถัดไปจะเป็นการถ่ายภาพร่วมกันนะคะแต่ว่าจะเป็นการถ่ายจากข้างบนลงมาข้างล่างนักศึกษาที่อยู่รอบๆนะคะนักศึกษาเข้ามานั่งให้เต็มเลยค่ะ
กล้องคุณวันทันยูนะคะโอเคนะคะมองกล้องตรงกลางน้องใส่เสื้อเชิ้ตสีดำใส่เสื้อสูทสีดำนะคะท่านอาจารย์ค่ะภาพที่1นะคะ1 2 3ค่ะอีกรูปหนึ่งนะคะโอเคค่ะ1 2 3ค่ะก็ขอบพระคุณท่านอาจารย์ทุกท่านนะคะที่เข้าร่วมถ่ายภาพเป็นที่ระลึกนะคะค่ะขอบพระคุณค่ะค่ะสำหรับในช่วงต่อไปนะคะท่านอาจารย์เราก็จะรับสัญญาณจากหอประชุมครุสภาจากกระทรวงศึกษาธิการนะคะซึ่งก็จะเป็นการบรรยายของผู้เชี่ยวชาญอาวุโสแห่งเอเชียตะวันออกเฉียงใต้นะคะหรือซีมิโอนะคะจากสาธารณรัฐฟิลิปปินส์นะคะซึ่งท่านจะมาบรรยายในหัวข้อมาตรฐานสมรรถนะทางการสอนของประเทศในกลุ่มเอเชียตะวันออกเฉียงใต้นะคะค่ะซึ่งภาพเมื่อสักครู่นี้นะคะเราก็ถ่ายทอดกลับไปที่หอประชุมครุสภาเช่นเดียวกันนะคะว่าในส่วนภูมิภาคของภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือได้ทำอะไรบ้างนะคะ
Dr. Kwang Jo Kim, the Director of UNESCO Bangkok. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Withaya Jiradeshakun, the Director of the CMEO Secretariat. Also, the representative from the Thailand Education Dean Council. Next, from the University of Khon Kaen, or Khon Kaen University. Next is from Thaksin University. Next is from Rajapat Ratchanakarin University. Next, from Rajapat Chiang Mai University. Next, from Rajapat Nakhon Sawan University. Next, from Burapha University. Next, from Rajapat Suandusit University. And also from the College of Dramatic Arts in Bangkok. ตัวแทนจากวิทยาลัยนาฏศิลป์ค่ะ Thank you very much, His Excellency. So that concludes our opening ceremony this morning. In view of time, the organizer would like to inform you that there will be no coffee break outside the room. The snack has already been provided to you in the box. If some of you have not yet received it, the staff will be providing to you later. And if you'd like to use the restroom, there are the restroom for the gentlemen on the left and the ladies on the right. Please feel free to have a chance for that. While they're setting up the stage for our international conference, perhaps we can take a couple of minutes here to wait for them to set up. But please be informed that we are now broadcasting live to 5 university or the Teacher Education Institute all over Thailand. So it is very remarkable event as we speaking. The teachers in the north, which is Ratchapat Chiang Mai, also see you at the same time. If you want to say hi to any of them, just wave your hand if your colleagues waiting there. Also in the south, Thaksin University, มหาวิทยาลัยทักษิณนะคะ In the east, also Khon Kaen University. In the west, Ratchapat Ratchanakarin University, and also in the central part is Ratchapat Nakhon Sawan, together with here. So we'll have more than 100,000 teachers all over Thailand to see this event at the same time. Okay, so before you leave the room, this is one of the important events that I would like to welcome you again and encourage you not to miss this part, which is one of the best part of the international conference today. I'd like to first start the keynote address, which is the most important, and together with others as well for this event. It is the keynote address from UNESCO or from Dr. Gwangjo Kim. And this is a special one on the teacher education for all. Dr. Gwangjo Kim, I'd like to introduce you. Dr. Gwangjo Kim, he's not only the director of the UNESCO Bangkok office, he is also the former Deputy Minister of Education in Korea นะคะก่อนที่ท่านจะมาเป็นผู้อำนวยการองค์การยูเนสโกท่านก็เป็นรัฐมนตรีช่วยของกระทรวงศึกษาที่เกาหลีมาก่อนนะคะ His background is in College of Law and also from Harvard School of Education นะคะท่านจบทั้งทางด้านกฎหมายทางที่เกาหลีมหาวิทยาลัยที่เกาหลีแล้วก็ที่ Harvard ด้วยนะคะ But I know Dr. Kim since 2009 for almost 10 years already.
Sawadika, good morning again. I'm here again to make a presentation. Thank you, Dr. Tinsley, for your nice introduction. Yes, so we've been brother and sister for almost 6 years by now, Dr. Tinsley, CMEO, and UNESCO. So I'm very pleased and honored to stand here again to present to you our most recent report on teacher education from UNESCO. Oops. So where is mine? Yeah, where is my PPT? Sorry. Okay, great. So, Dr. Tinson, how much time do I have? Half an hour or 1 hour? Half an hour. She said half an hour, so I'll try my best. Okay, so teaching and learning, achieving quality for all. This is the title that I brought here today. So, in speaking about teaching and learning quality for all, I'll begin by reporting to you about what we now know as global learning crisis, depicted by the most recent global monitoring report. And then I'll have a brief look at the case of Thailand, and then strategies and recommendations put together by the global monitoring report, and then the education agenda before us after 2015, where we stand, how teacher education is featured in this discourse. Then I will end my presentation with our program in UNESCO Bangkok. So, the first part of my story, global learning crisis. What is it all about? As I said, this year's, the most recent publication from Global Monitoring Report is entitled Teaching and Learning, Achieving Quality for All. As you may recall, this is the 6th goal of Education for All, or EFA, which began already 24 years ago here in Thailand, Jomtien, Thailand. EFA has 6 goals, and 6th of which is about quality. This is, people say, the most important goal, and yet we haven't done enough on this front. That's why this year's publication is focusing on this quality for all. So the message from this year's Global Monitoring Report can be summarized in 4 or 5 bullet points. First, by 2015, which is the target year of Education for All, which is just around the corner, many countries will not achieve the EFA goal, unfortunately. Secondly, there is the global learning crisis that is hitting the disadvantaged or the marginalized hardest or most. And quality education can only be achieved with good quality teachers, which is the theme of today's conference. And because EFA cannot be attained by next year, global education goals after 2015 must track progress of the marginalized. And then education post-2015 goal must include specific targets to finance or sport education. These are the key. By the way, Global Monitoring Report, or GMR, although it is UNESCO publication, those who work on this report are working more or less very independently, meaning they bring the expertise from statisticians, educationists, etc. So it is very, I would say, neutral and objective report. That's why GMR report is cited so often. So first, let's look at the number of schools, children or adolescents out of school. It has declined over the years, but notice that the pace of decline somehow slowed down since 2008, when the global economy was hit by what we call crisis of some kind at global level. Asian countries are doing more or less better than countries in the rest of the world, and nonetheless, because of the economic downturn, the pace of slowdown has been kind of reduced. Notice that out of school adolescents, still there are quite a number of kids at adolescent level. This is the key challenge that we are facing now. In terms of EFA 6 goals, this chart looks at 5 of EFA 6 goals in terms of how many countries are there. As you can see, many countries, in terms of proportion of countries from around the world, many countries have not achieved EFA goals on all 5 fronts of IFA goals. Notice goal number 4, which is adult literacy. As much as 37% of the countries are not going to achieve IFA goal by next year. So this is a largely unfinished job. Not only many kids are out of school kids, those who are in schools, they are not learning enough. In a nutshell, this is what we call learning crisis. For example, of the 650 million primary school age children in the world, 130 million are in primary school but have not learned the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. They haven't picked up enough skills in these very fundamental skill areas. And 120 million have not even completed 4-year school. So together, 38% of children are not learning the basics. Then we have to ask ourselves, so what it means that we put kids in schools if they do not learn even the basics? That's why we think teachers are so key to all these challenges. Another way of looking at it is the proportion of kids who spend at least 4 years in school and learn the basics. Notice that the case of South and West Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa is quite alarming. Unlike other regions of the world, in these two regions of the world, only a small fraction of kids have completed 4-year schools and learned or obtained basic skills. Well, compared to these regions, the rest of Asia, including Asia and the Pacific, ASEAN in particular, I would say doing quite well in relative sense. So when it comes to learning crisis, as I said earlier in my opening speech and just now, those who are marginalized in terms of wealth in particular, they hit the hardest. As you can see in the case of India and Pakistan, these kids from poorest quintile of income distribution, they learn the least. They complete the least number of schooling. So 1/4 of those aged 15 to 24 in poor countries are unable to read a single sentence. Can you imagine, after spending 4 years, 5 years, even more years in school, they still do not understand a single sentence? This is almost like a joke. So where are the teachers? The next question is, where are the teachers? Educators. Now, we as educators, we must ask ourselves this very uncomfortable, uneasy fact. I'm not talking about ASEAN countries, but in general, in all other places. So we say, well, we do not have sufficient resources. But it turns out that 10% of global spending or investment in education is not well spent. So we can easily talk about the level of spending, but at the same time, the way we spend money may be more important, because by making our resources more effective, we can save up to US $129 billion. At the same time, the donors are no longer generous. I'm sorry to say this, but it turns out that, again, because of the economic downturn or economic crisis, since 2008, it was peaked at 2009, but since then, the so-called education aid has been declining. So I cannot offer, or even the report cannot offer any
ช่วงนี้ปรากฏว่าสัญญาณจากกรุงเทพเสียงหายไปนะคะอาจารย์ขอความกรุณาดูภาพอย่างเดียวไปก่อนเดี๋ยวคิดว่าเสียงคงจะค่อยๆมาค่ะคือทางฝ่ายเทคนิคเชียนให้มาเรียนอาจารย์ว่าตอนนี้ปัญหาคือปัญหาจากทางนู้นนะคะสัญญาณจากทางนู้นมันไม่มานะคะเดี๋ยวเราอาจจะต้องรอสักครู่หนึ่งนะคะตอนนี้ก็เรามีกาแฟนะคะอาจารย์มีมุมกาแฟให้อาจารย์ทานกาแฟทานชามาแล้วค่ะ
Many is quite obvious. So it recommends that at minimum these teachers need to have complete at least secondary education with a good grades. This is very important. If countries cannot afford post-secondary education qualification, at least the secondary graduate should have completed with a good achievement. And there should be a good balance of male and to female. You know, the feminization of teaching profession is an issue in many countries, perhaps in all of the countries in the world. It's a matter of extent. Again, when it comes to recruitment, policymakers need to bear this in mind. And also having diverse range of background, I think this is very important to address to the diverse needs of learners more than anything else. Second is training. In one out of 3 countries of UNESCO member states, less than 3/4 of teachers are trained to national standards. It's quite alarming. So policymakers must provide good quality pre- and in-service training. So the bullet points should be self-explanatory again. But one thing I would like to note is teachers must be equipped to meet the needs of those from disadvantaged backgrounds, meaning people from poor background in terms of wealth, and also speaking minority language, living in rural area, and so on and so forth, for us to attain education for all girls. This is a very, very important part of the recommendation. Third part of the recommendation is about allocation. Deployment of teachers. In my previous job in the Republic of Korea, I was once in charge of teacher education, teacher policy as Director General. One of the issues was how to make good teachers, reputed teachers, to be able to work in rural settings. We used many incentives for good teachers to move to a rural area, station there for at least several years to deliver good instruction on the one hand and to inspire his or her peers. So again, this is not an easy job. Unless you have a very well functioning incentives, it may be difficult. So urban bias is one thing, and ethnic language and the gender in terms of subjects. These are the considerations that we need to make when it comes to deploying or allocating teachers. So I talked about incentives. The last recommendation is about retainment of best teachers. So more than anything else, the teacher salary. Well, in some countries, they do not openly speak about this for good reasons. But I think it's time for us to visit and revisit this again. For example, how much teachers earn vis-a-vis their peers in other professions at the entry point, 10 years later, 20 years later. I think this is very, very important. I haven't included in my slides, but if you look at so-called high-performing countries, when it comes to international tests like PISA and TIMSS, like countries like Singapore, my country, Korea, Finland, etc., you will note that the teachers are much well paid compared to per capita GDP at the entry level, starting level, more or less the same. But 10 years later, they get 1.5 times, even 2-3 times higher. Of course, money is not about the status, but we are living in a very materialized world, so money does count. And if those in the room who can influence the policy or take decision, please do look at this. And there's a trade-off. But from my experience in previous job, I think it's very, very critical in terms of retaining good teachers in the system. Of course, recruiting the best and brightest in the first place, of course, important. At the same time, it may be necessary to come up measures that to address so-called teachers' misconduct. For example, what we call moonlighting, teaching the same kids after schools for fees. Again, in my view, this is related to teacher remuneration issue. So again, we need to look at from a more holistic perspective how best we can incentivize teaching profession so that we can recruit the best and brightest in the first place and let them stay on, let them be motivated throughout their profession so that they can deliver good pedagogy. Okay, these are self-explanatory, so I'm going to skip that. So all in all, again, policymakers must address these 4 dimensions of teacher policy. And these recommendations, as you can see, there's nothing new. These are the things that requires attention, commitment, and determination in my personal view, based on, again, my experience, because there are always trade-off in choosing different policy options. Your Excellency Deputy Minister, this is a message for you, for Thailand. You may address this issue with the newly appointed minister and other cabinet members. I'm talking about this based on my own experience. For example, you choose to spend more on teacher salary at the expense of something else, but make these teachers to work harder. Okay, so how teacher education is, I realize I have only 5 minutes left. So the key is that the teacher issue has now become the key aspect of what we call post-2015 education agenda at the global, regional, and national level. That's the message. So I'm going to skip all the slides. The Muscat Agreement is basically consensus among education leaders from around the world. As, for example, in the Muscat statement, as I spoke in my opening remark, target number 6, I'm going to read it. By 2030, which is the target year for next international development goal, all learners are taught by qualified, professionally trained, motivated, and well-supported teachers. So this is echoed by education leaders in Asia, a meeting called APREC, which is the meeting of education ministers and leaders in Asia Pacific. We met in Bangkok in August and ended with what we call Bangkok Statement. Bangkok Statement is, in a nutshell, endorsing the Muscat Agreement or global consensus on the one hand, also voicing the concerns from Asia Pacific. As I will show you, quality and teachers. Teachers are central to quality learning. This is once again confirmed by education leaders in Asia Pacific. Interestingly, in the Asia Pacific education leaders, ministers said they will spend 6% of GDP and 20% of expenditure for education. This was very much inspired by the host country, Thailand. As I showed you, Thailand already exceeded the benchmark kind of. So other countries will follow suit. But in my humble opinion, this has to be followed with a quality learning outcome. Otherwise, it will be difficult to justify in the long run. So then you would ask, what do you do in UNESCO? 4 things. First of all, to help our countries, we work on what we call competence-based teacher education reform. Basically, it has 3 subjects. We believe teachers, first and foremost, have a good knowledge on the subject they deliver. So subject knowledge and abilities, values, and attitudes. In my view, this is about understanding of the learners, in a nutshell. Good knowledge about subject, understanding about learners, and then good pedagogy using technology in one way. Dr. Tinsley is an expert in this area. She would agree. So we have 3 components, and we are now piloting this idea with several countries and regions, including Nepal, Uzbekistan, and Philippines. Inotech, Professor Ethel, you are engaged in this. Yes. So we, depending on how it goes, we may scale up to include other countries. And the professional development, innovative pedagogy, we are working with the countries, our member states, to help in this area. And the school leadership, in particular, try to accommodate or embrace this global education initiative, including education for sustainable development and global citizenship education, human rights-based education, and so on and so forth. Sorry. Last but not least, this is a rather new approach adopted by us, UNESCO. Already, although it has been years since we came up with what we call normative instrument things that I mentioned in our opening remark, two things. ILO UNESCO recommendation concerning state of teachers. In a nutshell, this recommendation are asking governments to pay due attention to teachers' working condition, salary, and status. And member states ask UNESCO Secretariat, meaning UNESCO, Bangkok, UNESCO headquarters in Paris, to monitor the application of these two important instruments. And now I think it's the highest time for us to revisit this issue because we are at the crossroads of defining new education goal and again with a strong consensus on the importance of teacher education. So in so doing, we will organize some meetings this year, one in China to debate about this with the education researchers, and then we have a paid conference in Bangkok here in Thailand. So this is my presentation to you all, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Should I stand here? Comments?
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim, for the very informative keynote address, and your presentation confirms the theme of the World Teachers' Day this year, that it said, invest in the future, invest in the teachers นะคะถ้าจะลงทุนในอนาคตให้ลงทุนที่คุณครูนะคะนั่นคือธีมของ World Teachers' Day. Thank you very much. Please give a round of applause for Dr. Kim again. So we have heard from the big picture of the global level, which is UNESCO. Now, I would like to move to the next session, which is the plenary sessions. And the plenary sessions, we will narrow down the perspective of the global into regional level. นะคะเราได้ฟังมุมมองของระดับโลกซึ่งทางยูเนสโกทำแล้วเดี๋ยวเราจะมาฟังมุมมองของภูมิภาคนะคะ The perspective of the regional level, we will hear from a representative from the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education. We will hear two sessions or two speakers this morning. The first, we will start with Dr. Ethel Agnes Pascual Valenzuela. She is the senior lecturer or senior specialist from CMEO Innotech. CMEO Innotech is one of our CMEO regional centers in Southeast Asia. CMEO International Organization, as Dr. Wittiya mentioned earlier this morning, that we have 20 centers all over Southeast Asia, and the headquarters of CMEO is in Bangkok. That's where I'm working at the moment. And Dr. Ethel, her background, not only a senior specialist, her range is from basic education to higher education. And she also is the person behind the scene of the education research reform on K-12 in the Philippines. Her expertise is in the assessment and also in the recognition of academic framework qualification in ASEAN for teacher as well. She has done a great research and report on teacher competency, and she will also talk about how CMEO contribute to develop a teacher competency in Southeast Asia. So not only all those experts, Dr. Ethel is also a good friend of mine. She is very dedicated to her work, to the point that there were one time, if you may, Ethel, we were in the conference, and after the conference, everybody would like to go for shopping, but Ethel would like to commit to her report and not go to shopping and write the report. So that is how committed Dr. Ethel is. So welcome, join me to welcome Dr. Ethel Agnes Pascual Valenzuela.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tinsiri, my dear Deputy Director of CMES and my good friend from Thailand. Sawadika. Good morning. Happy World Teachers' Day. Can you greet your seatmate, Happy Teachers' Day? Okay, I think we forgot to greet each other. We're all teachers. Allow me to first congratulate our Deputy Minister, Dr. Krisa Mapong Kiritanpan. Congratulations for inspiring all of us today. Also, our dear Teacher Education Council President, Dr. Python. Thank you for organizing this very successful event. Our dear Director of UNESCO Bangkok for sharing all the updates on teacher education, education for all, and quality learning. My dear Director from CIMEO, Dr. Witaya, for leading us to CIMEO in the 21st century, what can be expected from us as a regional organization, and to the participating universities who are actually documenting and doing their work, distance, transnational maybe, and utilizing MOOCs for the students of the world in Thailand. And to all of you gathered here today, you're very lucky you are here. In 2010, as an educational policy researcher, I have some questions in my mind that time. I was thinking, who is teaching our kids? Who is actually teaching children of the 21st century? What competencies or skills do they have? Because we leave our kids and our children to them. Is there any standards of teaching in Southeast Asia? Is there one? So I drafted a proposal to my boss and I said, I wanted to do a research on teaching competency standards. Actually, it's a book now. The first one, I did a meta-analysis of all the existing researches on teaching competency standards, but I could not find many in Southeast Asia. So I said, it is better to call on experts from different parts of Southeast Asia. Let's have a look of this journey in identifying the teaching competency standards. I'll be sharing with you first the context of CIMEO, the teaching standards, Guru 21 or teachers of the 21st century, and how do we move forward with all of the developments brought to us by UNESCO. CIMEO is a regional intergovernmental organization, and it was born in 1965. Our main objective is to promote education, science, and culture in Southeast Asian region. And the members, we have Brunei Darussalam, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam. This is the world we are living in, 11 member countries of Southeast Asia. In terms of educational system, luckily, the Philippines was able to adjust to the regional standards of having an international standard of at least 12 years of basic education. So I'm showing to you the education landscape with most countries having international standards of 12 to 13 years of basic education. And the school year, well, you can see here that we are all very concerned and dedicated to education because we have more than the number of days as compared to other Western countries in terms of our days of schooling. So minimum of around 190, or Myanmar has 172.